At the school prom, my best friend forced me to wear everyday clothes. She said it while holding up her glittering gown, smiling like she was doing me a favor. Emma, don't overthink it, she laughed. Prom isn't really your moment anyway. I remember standing in front of the mirror, staring at my jeans and plain blouse, hearing music and laughter drifting in from the street as limousines pulled up outside. Other girls were stepping out in sparkling dresses, cameras flashing, memories being made. And there I was, dressed like it was just another school day. I should have argued. I should have trusted my gut. But I didn't. Because she was my best friend. The person who always told me she was protecting me. The person who said she knew how these nights worked. What I didn't know was that making me look invisible was only the first move. And when the spotlight found me anyway, she wouldn't just be jealous. She would try to destroy me. My best friend's name was Chloe Parker, and for as long as I could remember, she had always been the center of every room. Teachers remembered her name. Guys leaned closer when she talked. Even strangers seemed to notice her without trying. Chloe called it confidence. Everyone else just called it natural. I was the opposite. Not invisible, just quiet. The kind of girl people described as nice or sweet, like those words were meant to explain why I faded into the background. Chloe used to say we balanced each other out. You keep me grounded, she'd tell me with a smile. And I help you come out of your shell. Back then, I believed her. We met freshman year, when she sat next to me in English class and borrowed a pen. By the end of the week, we were inseparable. Lunch together. Homework together. Sleepovers where she talked about her crushes while I listened. And I always listened. Whenever someone complimented me, Chloe laughed it off like it was a joke. She's cute in a shy way, she'd say. Or, Emma's more of the supportive type. At first, it didn't bother me. I told myself she didn't mean anything by it. That's just how she talked. But over the years, little things started stacking up. If I liked a guy, she'd suddenly find something wrong with him. If I got excited about something, she'd gently remind me not to get my hopes up. If I dressed up for a school event, she'd tilt her head and say, "Are you sure that's you?" Prom season was when everything intensified. Girls started planning months in advance, group chats, dress fittings, countdowns scribbled on notebooks. Chloe talked about prom like it was destiny. "This is my night," she said one afternoon, flopping dramatically onto my bed. "Senior prom is when everything finally comes together." I smiled and nodded, like I always did. "What about you?" she asked suddenly. "You excited?" I hesitated. "Yeah, I think so." She studied me for a second, then smiled. "Don't stress about it," she said lightly. "Prom can be brutal, if you're not careful." That word stuck with me. Careful. I didn't realize yet that in Chloe's world, being careful meant knowing your place. The week before prom, my mom took a day off work to go dress shopping with me. She was more excited than I was. Maybe because she remembered her own prom, or maybe because she'd spent years watching me fade quietly into the background while other girls took center stage. The third dress I tried on was a deep navy blue, simple but elegant. It hugged my waist and flowed when I moved. When I stepped out of the fitting room, my mom actually gasped. "Emma," she said softly, her hand covering her mouth. "You look beautiful." For the first time in a long while, I felt it too. I took a picture in the mirror and sent it to Chloe, expecting at least a polite, cute, or a heart emoji. Minutes passed. Then my phone buzzed. "Chloe, is that what you're thinking of wearing?" Me, "Yeah, I kinda love it." "Chloe, it's just a lot. Prom can be really judgmental." That night, she came over without asking. She stood in my doorway, arms crossed, scanning the dresses hanging in my closet like she was evaluating a problem. "Look," she said carefully, lowering her voice, "I don't want you to get hurt." "Hurt by what?" I asked. She sighed, sitting on my bed. "By expectations. Prom is harsh. People talk. And sometimes they're not kind." I felt my stomach tighten. "So, I shouldn't dress up?" "I'm saying you don't need to try so hard," she replied quickly. "You're not like those girls who thrive on attention." I laughed awkwardly. "Isn't everyone dressing up?" "For them, yes," she said. "But you're different. You're more natural." Then she smiled, warm and reassuring. "Everyday clothes suit you. They feel honest. And, honestly, if you show up super dressed up, people might think you're trying to be something you're not." That sentence settled deep in my chest. Trying to be something I'm not. She reached for my hands. "Trust me, Emma. I've got your back. I don't want prom to turn into something painful for you." I wanted to argue. I wanted to say that I deserved to feel special too. But Chloe had always been the one who understood how things worked. At least, that's what I believed. So I nodded. On prom night, while she slipped into her sparkling red gown, I pulled on my jeans and plain blouse, staring at my reflection and telling myself this was safer. I told myself she was protecting me. I didn't realize she was protecting herself. The school gym barely looked real. Fairy lights draped from the ceiling like constellations. Gold and silver streamers caught the light as the music thumped through the walls, loud enough that I could feel it in my chest. The air smelled like perfume, hairspray, and fresh flowers. Everywhere I looked, girls glided past in dresses that shimmered when they moved. And then there was me, standing next to Chloe, in jeans and a plain blouse, clutching my small purse like it was a shield. She looked radiant. Her red gown hugged her perfectly, the fabric sparkling every time she laughed. People stopped her every few steps, compliments, hugs, photos. She soaked it all in like oxygen. "Stay close," she said, looping her arm through mine. "I don't want to lose you in the crowd." I nodded, even though I already felt lost. As we walked inside, I caught my reflection in one of the mirrors lining the wall. I barely recognized myself, not because I looked bad, but because I looked unfinished. Like I'd forgotten something important. Music swelled. The dance floor filled. Cameras flashed. Then I saw Ryan Mitchell. He stood near the punch table, taller than most of the guys around him, dark hair neatly styled, sleeves rolled up just enough to show his forearms. He wasn't loud or showy like the others. He just observed. Calm. Confident, in a quiet way. Our eyes met for a second. I looked away instantly, my cheeks burning. That was ridiculous. Guys like him didn't notice girls like me. Chloe had said so herself. She followed my gaze and scoffed. "Don't even think about it." "I wasn't," I said too quickly. "He's not your type," she added. "Trust me." Before I could respond, Ryan started walking toward us. My heart pounded as he passed a group of girls whispering excitedly, then slowed when he stopped in front of us. "Hey," he said, smiling. "I'm Ryan." Chloe stepped forward immediately, her practiced smile already in place. "Eat." But Ryan's eyes were on me. "I was wondering," he continued, voice steady, "if you'd like to dance." For a moment, everything went silent in my head. Chloe laughed, sharp and surprised. "I think you've got the wrong person." Ryan glanced at her, then back at me. "I don't think so." I swallowed. My hands were shaking, but I nodded. "Yeah, okay." As he took my hand, I felt Chloe's grip tighten painfully around my arm. The music changed, and suddenly we were on the dance floor. People stared. Whispers followed us, like shadows. I should have felt embarrassed. Instead, for the first time that night, I felt seen. And behind me, I could feel Chloe watching, furious, silent, and already planning her next move. The dance ended too quickly. When the song faded and the crowd shifted, reality rushed back in. Ryan smiled, thanked me, and said he'd see me around before disappearing into a group of his friends. I stood there for a second, my heart still racing, my hand warm where his had been. I turned back toward Chloe. Her smile was gone. She didn't say a word as she grabbed her purse and walked toward the edge of the gym. I followed her instinctively, my stomach twisting with every step. "Chloe?" I called. Nothing. The rest of the night felt wrong. She stayed glued to her phone, replying to texts with clipped smiles, laughing a little too loudly whenever someone came over. Every time I tried to talk to her, she brushed me off. "I'm fine," she said flatly. "Just tired." But I could feel it, something sharp and ugly hanging in the air between us. On the drive home, the silence was unbearable. The radio played softly, but neither of us sang along like we usually did. Finally, she spoke. "You didn't have to do that." My chest tightened. "Do what?" "Accept his invitation," she said, staring straight ahead. "You knew how that would look." I frowned. He asked me. She let out a short laugh. "Please. Guys like him don't just randomly pick girls in jeans." The word stung more than I expected. "So, what are you saying?" I asked quietly. "I'm saying," she replied, her voice icy, "that you embarrass me." People were watching. They were whispering. "I didn't plan it," I said. "I wasn't trying to steal anything from you." She turned to look at me then, her eyes hard. "Prom was my moment, Emma. Everyone knew that." The rest of the ride passed in silence. The next morning, my phone was full of notifications. Photos from prom were everywhere, group shots, blurry videos, tagged posts. And there it was. One picture, taken from across the dance floor. Me and Ryan, his hand on my waist, my head tilted up toward him, smiling. The comments were already rolling in. "Didn't see that coming." "Wait, isn't that Chloe's friend? Since when is Emma like hot?" My stomach dropped. I texted Chloe. "Can we talk?" No response. At school, she avoided me completely. She sat with different people at lunch. In the hallway, she walked past me like I wasn't there. Then the rumors started. That I'd flirted all night. That I'd worn plain clothes on purpose for attention. That I'd gone behind her back. By the time I realized what was happening, Chloe had already decided on the story. And in her version, I was the villain. I just didn't know yet how far she was willing to go to make everyone believe it. By Monday morning, the air at school felt different. People didn't just look at me anymore, they watched me. Whispers followed me down the hallway, cutting off the moment I turned around. Phones were constantly in people's hands, screens lighting up with notifications that made my stomach knot. Chloe still hadn't replied to my message. I found out why during second period. My phone buzzed under the desk. Then again. And again. When I finally checked it, my chest tightened. It was a screenshot. A post from Chloe. She hadn't named me, but she didn't have to. Funny how some people pretend to be humble and low-key, but the moment they get attention, they show who they really are. Fake friends always reveal themselves when they steal what was never meant for them. My hands started shaking. Below, it were comments. Dozens of them. Wow, that's messed up. I always thought she was sweet, guess not. Some people love playing the victim. I felt sick. By lunch, the post had spread everywhere. People who had barely spoken to me before were suddenly experts on my intentions. Chloe sat at a table across the cafeteria, surrounded by girls, laughing softly while her phone stayed face up in front of her like a trophy. I walked over, my heart pounding so loud I could hear it in my ears. "Why are you doing this?" I asked, my voice low. She looked up slowly, like I was interrupting something unimportant. "Doing what?" "You know exactly what," I said. "Posting that. Letting everyone think I betrayed you." She tilted her head, pretending to think. "If the shoe fits." "You're lying." Her smile vanished. "You humiliated me at prom," she snapped, standing up so fast her chair scraped loudly against the floor. Conversations around us died instantly. "You let everyone think you were better than me." "I didn't let anything happen," I said, my voice shaking now. "I just existed." She laughed, sharp, cruel. "Don't act innocent. You knew exactly what you were doing." People were staring. Phones were out. "You always do this," she continued louder now. "You play the quiet, harmless girl, so no one sees you coming." Something inside me cracked. "I wore jeans because you told me to," I said. "You said I shouldn't try. You said I wasn't that kind of girl." Her eyes flashed. "And you should have listened." That's when I realized it. This wasn't about prom. This was about control. That afternoon, Ryan found me sitting alone on the bleachers behind the gym, staring at my phone like it might explode. "I saw the post," he said gently. I looked up, embarrassed. "I didn't plan any of this." "I know," he said without hesitation. "And, honestly, anyone who does that to you isn't your friend." I swallowed hard. "She says I stole her moment." "She doesn't own moments," he replied. "Or you." That night, Chloe posted again. Longer this time. More detailed. She painted herself as the supportive best friend who had been blindsided by betrayal. She talked about trust. About loyalty. About how much it hurt to be stabbed in the back. She never mentioned telling me to dress down. Never mentioned isolating me. Never mentioned how she'd spent years reminding me to stay small. My phone blew up. Some people asked for my side. Some didn't bother. Some told me I should apologize to keep the peace. I sat on my bed at 2 a.m., staring at the ceiling, realizing something terrifying. If I stayed silent, her story would become the truth. And for the first time in years, I understood that keeping the peace with Chloe meant losing myself completely. So I opened my notes app. And I started typing. I stared at the blinking cursor on my phone for a long time. Every instinct in me screamed to stop. To stay quiet. To smooth things over like I always had. Chloe had trained me well. Years of subtle comments, gentle warnings, and perfectly timed smiles had taught me that peace only existed if I didn't push back. But this time, staying silent felt worse than the fear. My fingers trembled as I typed. I didn't write angrily. I didn't insult her. I didn't exaggerate. I just told the truth. I wrote about how she'd told me prom was brutal and that I should be careful. How she'd said everyday clothes suited me better. How she'd warned me not to try too hard. I wrote about standing next to her in jeans while she sparkled in red. About how Ryan had asked me to dance. Not because I tricked him, not because I planned it, but because he chose to. Then I posted screenshots. Messages, with timestamps. Her exact words. Before I could overthink it, I hit post. My heart slammed so hard I thought I might throw up. For 10 minutes, nothing happened. Then my phone exploded. Notifications stacked on top of each other faster than I could read them. Comments. Messages. Missed calls. People I hadn't spoken to in years suddenly had opinions. Some were shocked. Some apologized. Some doubled down and said we were both being dramatic. And then Chloe called. I didn't answer. She showed up instead. I heard the door slam so hard the walls shook. Her footsteps thundered down the hallway, and a second later, my bedroom door flew open. She stood there breathing hard, her face red, eyes blazing. "How dare you?" she shouted. "How dare you do this to me?" I stood up, my legs shaking. I told the truth. "You humiliated me," she snapped. "You made me look like a monster." "You did that yourself," I said quietly. She laughed, but it sounded cracked. "You really think people are on your side?" "I don't care whose side they're on," I said. "I'm done lying for you." She stepped closer. "You wouldn't even have a social life without me." That sentence used to crush me. This time it didn't. "Then why are you so scared of me being seen?" I asked. She froze. For a split second, her confidence slipped, and I saw it. The fear underneath. The insecurity she'd been hiding behind me for years. "You were supposed to stay in your place," she said finally, her voice low. "That's how this worked." Something inside me went completely still. "My place," I repeated. "Was it behind you? Or beneath you?" She didn't answer. We stared at each other, years of shared history hanging heavy in the air. Sleepovers. Secrets. Inside jokes. All of it suddenly felt distant, like it belonged to different people. "I'm not doing this anymore," I said. "Not with you. Not with anyone." Her lips curled into a familiar, cruel smile. "You'll regret this. People will get bored of you. They always do." I shook my head. "Maybe. But at least I won't be shrinking myself to make you feel big." She stormed out, slamming the door behind her. I sank onto my bed, my hands shaking, not from fear this time, but from release. Outside my room, my phone kept buzzing. Some friendships cracked. Some disappeared entirely. But a few messages stood out. "I didn't realize she treated you like that. I'm sorry I never said anything. You didn't deserve this." I stared at the screen, tears blurring my vision. For the first time, people weren't seeing me as Chloe's shadow. They were seeing me. And even though it hurt, losing friends, losing comfort, losing the illusion of safety, I felt something unfamiliar settle in my chest. Relief. Because the truth was finally out. And no matter what happened next, I knew one thing for sure. I was never going back to being small again. The days after everything came out were strangely quiet and unbearably loud at the same time. At school, the social landscape had shifted overnight. Tables in the cafeteria rearranged themselves without anyone saying it out loud. Some people avoided my eyes completely, like I reminded them of something uncomfortable. Others smiled at me in passing, tentative and unsure, as if they were trying to decide whether I was safe to talk to now. I lost friends I'd had for years. Girls who used to sit next to me in class suddenly chose different seats. People I'd laughed with at parties stopped replying to my messages. It hurt more than I expected, not because I missed them deeply, but because it confirmed how fragile some friendships really were. But something else happened too. People I'd never been close to started reaching out. One girl from my math class stopped me after school. "I just wanted to say I'm glad you stood up for yourself," she said awkwardly. Another sent me a message late one night. I thought I was the only one Chloe treated like that. That shook me. I hadn't been alone. I'd just been quiet. Chloe and I still lived under the same roof, and that was the hardest part. We moved around each other like strangers, communicating only when absolutely necessary. She slammed cabinets when I was studying. I played music softly through my headphones to drown out the tension. Once, I caught her staring at me from the kitchen doorway. Not angry, not smug, just empty. Ryan became my escape. We didn't rush into anything. No dramatic declarations. No public displays, meant to prove a point. We just talked. Long walks. Late-night conversations where silence felt comfortable instead of heavy. One evening, as we sat on the hood of his car watching the sky darken, he said, "You know, you're different when you're not apologizing for existing." I laughed softly. "Am I?" "Yeah," he said. "You take up space now." That sentence stayed with me. I started saying no, to things I didn't want, to conversations that felt draining, to people who expected me to shrink again. It felt awkward at first, almost selfish, but it also felt honest. By the time graduation crept closer, the chaos had settled. Chloe had rebuilt her circle, with new people who didn't know the full story. I had done something harder. I'd rebuilt myself. I didn't feel powerful, or victorious, or fearless. I felt calm. And for the first time since freshman year, that felt like more than enough. Graduation came quietly. No dramatic confrontations. No last-minute apologies. Just caps, gowns, and the low hum of families filling the auditorium with proud smiles and camera flashes. I saw Chloe across the room. Our eyes met for a brief second. She nodded politely. I nodded back. That was it. No anger rushed through me. No ache in my chest. Just a calm understanding that what we'd had belonged to a different version of me, one who thought loyalty meant silence and friendship meant shrinking. After the ceremony, my mom hugged me tightly. "I'm proud of you," she whispered. "Not just for graduating, I knew what she meant. Later that night, I sat on the edge of my bed scrolling through old photos, freshman year selfies, late-night homework sessions, sleepovers that felt safe at the time. I didn't delete them. They were real. They just were my future. Ryan texted me. Ryan, dinner tomorrow? Just us. No drama. I promise. I smiled and typed back yes, without hesitation. The funny thing was, prom had never been the night that mattered. It wasn't about the lights, the music, or the dress I didn't wear. It wasn't even about being chosen by someone everyone admired. It was about being chosen by myself. For years, I'd mistaken control for care. I'd confused familiarity with safety. I let someone define my place because it felt easier than questioning the rules. But the moment I spoke up, everything shifted. I lost people. I lost comfort. I lost the version of myself that stayed quiet to survive. And in return, I gained something I'd never had before. Freedom. I don't know where Chloe is headed. I don't need to. Her journey isn't mine anymore. What I know is this. Real friends don't dim your light so theirs can shine brighter. They don't ask you to disappear so they can feel important. And the night I stopped being invisible didn't happen on the dance floor. It happened the moment I decided I was done playing small.